What's up, everybody? Back again with another Whiskies of the Galaxy Advent Calendar, Day 5. So we're going to go ahead and open this guy up. And as usual, pull out the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And then we're going to find Day 5, which is right here. Pop this guy open. And pull the little vial out. So this is going to be another product of the USA, and it says alcohol by volume is 45%. So go ahead, unscrew the cap off this vial and give it a smell, see if we can pick up on anything. It's a little bit different of a smell. I can't really place what I'm smelling in it compared to a normal bourbon or whiskey. So we're gonna go ahead, pour it into our glass here, and we'll give it a taste. See what she tastes like. That's good. That's definitely got a very, I don't want to say intense, because intense can be off-putting, but it definitely has a big warming sensation that comes back up after you take the sip. And I would say overall this is a bit stronger than the Day 1 Wyoming whiskey as well. So we're going to go ahead and open this up to Day 5. So this is going to be Noble Oak Double Oak Bourbon. So tasting notes are going to be vanilla, dark chocolate, leather, corn, herbs, woody, sherry. So that might have been the smell that I was picking up on that I said I couldn't place it, but it smelled a bit different. It seems like they might have aged it in sherry casks, and caramel. So caramel, again, is going to be pretty much any bourbon or whiskey. That's going to be your predominant tasting note. Woody, again, due to being aged in oak barrels. And yeah, if I actually look at the bottle, it says double oak bourbon, bourbon whiskey finished with sherry oak staves. So yeah, so that's that smell that I was picking up on that I said it smelled a bit different, but couldn't really place it. So we'll go ahead, scan this QR code and see what the website says. So overall, this rated a 7.4 out of 10 with 892 votes. A 750 milliliter bottle is going to run you $32.99 on the Flaviar website. And here is the about section. So the whiskey gentry of the New World. In Ohio, there's a town called Newtown that was quite unassuming until now. For a couple years, the town's been making an excellent double gold, double oak bourbon. For a couple years now, the town's been making an excellent double gold, double oak bourbon named Noble Oak. Noble Oak is a quality crafted American whiskey brand that also has a heart. Each bottle sold plants a tree. That's interesting. And why is this particular spirit so special? Well, first, it spends the last 12 months in charred New American white oak barrels, earning its sweet vanilla character. Its markers use time-honored methods of maturation to create an unrivaled bourbon with body, deep color, and richness of flavor. Then Spanish sherry oak staves are added, and voila, a noble bourbon is born. Experts say it's superb, aromatic, and pleasing, but we think they're forgetting a couple of adjectives: exciting and a bit exotic. So down to Doug Dogson's Smartass Corner. So it says, bourbon rules refer to manufacturing methods rather than location. Bourbon must be matured in new and charred American white oak casks for at least 2 years. If the bottle has no age statement, the bourbon is at least 4 years old. No coloring or flavoring of any type is allowed, and the mash bill must contain at least 51% corn. So that's where you're going to really differ between a bourbon and a whiskey, is it has to contain at least 51% corn to be a bourbon, and it has to be finished in charred white oak casks for 2 years in order to be classified as a bourbon. So bourbon matures quicker than Scotch due to higher temperatures in American warehouses. At any given time, there are more barrels of bourbon in Kentucky than there are people. The population of the bluegrass state is about 4.4 million. Today, there are more than 5 million barrels of bourbon sitting in the rick houses of that old Kentucky home. That's nearly 300 bottles of bourbon per person, or about 60 gallons each. Bourbon was declared the official spirit of America by an act of Congress signed by President Lyndon Johnson in 1964. Did not know that. Straight bourbon must be matured for at least 2 years. If a bottle has no age, it's at least 4 years old. And back to the beginning. So yeah, that sherry, having the sherry staves added, that is gonna, or staves, sorry, that is going to give it that smell that I was saying. It smelled different, but I couldn't really place it. With the more intense, again, I don't like that word because it might be off-putting to some people, but the more intense warming sensation that you get coming up, I typically get that with bourbon over whiskey, and it being a little bit more of a bite to it, a little bit more of the like take your breath, that I would also account to it being a bourbon instead of a whiskey. I thought this was really good. Honestly, up to this point, I would say this is probably my favorite. I don't know. The Catoctin Creek was still really good. It was very smooth, and it was a really good rye. So that's actually hard to place this as which one is number one. So honestly, I would say this Day 5 Noble Oak and the Catoctin Creek are currently tied for number one. Number two would then be the Day 4, which was the Starward Australian whiskey. Number 3 would be the Wyoming, and number 4 would be the Israeli peated whiskey, which was called Milk and Honey. So that's kind of how I place it. Again, it's been 5 days, but I would say this and the Catoctin Creek are tied for my number one starward. I think they're both very good. Like I said, so this is not going to be as smooth as the Catoctin Creek or even the Starward Australian whiskey, but the just overall taste of it is, I mean, it's a very, very good bourbon. And typically I tend to like bourbon a bit more as my personal preference. When it comes to like bourbon and whiskey, I tend to err to the side of bourbon. But anyways, let me know what you guys think. I know you're not tasting this, so there's not really much you can say about it. But if you've had any of these whiskeys or bourbons that I've taste tested out of this advent calendar, leave a comment. Tell me whether or not you like them. So if you've had this Noble Oak before, or you've bought a bottle, or whatever the case is, let me know. Do you agree with me? Do you like it, or do you dislike it? Let me know in the comments. I'd be interested to know how my choices rank up to everybody else's out there. But as always, I want to end out this video. So stay safe out there. Keep the rubber side down, and I'll see you on the road. Bandit out.